Good evening. This video is very personal and also very important for survival situations and for you. I would like to encourage you to like this one as it helps the channel, and subscribe because this and other things are super important and you should know them all. Okay, for those who keep up with the videos or know me well, I have epilepsy after a stroke, and I've not had a fit for 2 years. And over the Easter break, I found myself with symptoms of numbness in this part of my hand and fingers, these two fingers. But that wasn't just it. So I get the odd lack of sensation, and it goes away and all of that. Now my fits start with a shake in my, well, there's sort of a whoosh and then a bit of a shake in the hands, and that I lose control of it and it goes up my hand and all of this. And so what I do in that instance, when I know that's coming, is I use this, which is prescribed midazolam. It's related to the other PAMs and BAMs and things like diazepam. And what that does is that calms the situation down and it retracts the problem and everything calms down. But I get what's called postdictal, which is where it's all very confusing. I can't speak anymore, and that sort of thing, which is itself very confusing, but I'm used to it now, so I'm calm through that stage. However, before that, adrenaline going. It's the beginning bit that I experienced over the weekend and the numbness. So what's happened is I've got that wham, okay, here we go, it's seizure time, which is really annoying if it's 2 years later, because I thought I was over it. I thought the drugs had sorted it all out. However, what I did was like, okay, I'm going to have a seizure. So I bang some of this in, go to my neighbours, and it all calms down, and then I'm normal, speaking normally. And it's like, what's going on here then? And so it's like, well, we cope with that quite well. So off I go back home and all of that, and then in the night, wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I know that's the sort of time some people get up, but it's not when I get up. Another one, bang some more drugs in. I was like, this is not right, because I don't get seizures every in close together. I've only ever had 2 close together once, and I was in hospital for 2 weeks, 16 days actually, and I couldn't speak, which was rubbish, by the way, because I loved the sound of my own voice and I couldn't do anything with the whole talky thing. So I've got 2, and now it's time to call an ambulance, because this is now possibly stroke-like symptoms, dangerous seizures, stuff like that. So off we go to hospital. The guy says, okay, so you've had we give you a CT scan. Oh no, he didn't. He said, well, you seem all right now, wouldn't worry about it, off you go home. I'm like, okay, yeah, it might just be a one-off. You're not, pretty convinced you're not having a stroke. You do all the little exercises and all of this. And so I go home and we're fine. I've now got this numbness, and it's like, this isn't right. Yeah, it's not right. It's not going away. And so I get to hospital. on my own volition. And I'm like, this is just not right. And they're like, right, okay, CT scan. And it says, well, you're not having another stroke. And I'm like, happy days. Pretty much anything but a stroke I can cope with reasonably well. So with not having a stroke, I can then say we were having seizures. Why are we having seizures? It's still wrong. It's still a problem. Because now I've still got lack of sensation, which is weird. And I'm having little seizures, which is weird. This is new. New is bad. We don't like new at all. We don't like not being able to feel bits of our hand. All these little seizure-y type things going on. Doctor says, you know what, Steve, this might not be this. It might not be that at all. It might be periphery nervous system, which is to do with non-cranial nerves, not to do with the brain as such. It should be the spinal column. And he says it might be the ulnar nerve, which is associated with this part of the hand. And that can be trapped either at the wrist, the elbow, or the shoulder. And I've had shoulder problems way back. I've seen a physio. And okay, well, maybe it's that. Maybe it's to do with my shoulder. And it's nothing to do with seizures or strokes. I'm like, okay, we can do this. The next day, have another one. And I'm like, you are having a laugh. In fact, I've no drugs this time. I'm like, okay, we're going to check this out, which is partially dangerous, but I've got neighbours and they're lovely, and the ambulance service is very good where we are. And it calms down without having the drugs. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Now, if it's a little seizure, maybe it's just that I only have focal seizures now. Then I have another one about lunchtime. Okay, this is still weird. And I've still got the numbness, but it doesn't, it calms down. I'm still not post-ictal. I can still speak. Then I have another one. I'm like, okay, this is taking the piss now. And yes, I'm working hard and doing this. And I'm clearing out, I'm spring cleaning as it happens. And so I spring cleaned my facial hair. So we go phone 111, and that is our it's our non-emergency medical line. If you've got an emergency, then you phone 999, which is effectively your 911 if you're in the States, plus many other things, places, numbers for different places. And that, yeah, so you go, you speak, somebody vets you, and then they say, okay, you're going to speak to a physio, you're going to speak to this. So I spoke to a doctor, an appropriate doctor, and she said, this is escalating and you need to go to hospital. I'm like, bollocks, because it's late. Go to hospital, 4 hours later, see a doctor, same doctor as it happens, which is nice. It means I don't have to explain it all again. And he says, you know what, Steve, I'm pretty bloody convinced that it's not seizures, but you should have a referral to a physio and a referral to a neurologist, just in case. So I'm seeing a neurologist on Wednesday and I'm seeing physio tomorrow. I did a private physio because I'm not waiting for the NHS for that, because they're very busy people and it takes a long time to get an NHS physio. And so the lesson of this particular story is You can be super fooled with the symptoms of something you've had before or know well, and that you can convince yourself so much that I took those drugs, yeah, and then I effectively proved it to myself because those drugs calmed the seizure down that I thought was a seizure. But it doesn't matter because they only lasted 30 seconds anyway and calmed themselves down. And it's like, well, the drugs did nothing. But apparently it was I stuck the bit in and this calmed down. They weren't actually they weren't actually, there was no causation going on there. Causation and correlation is something else to talk about another day. And so herein lies is a piece of information that's very important for survival. Almost everything that you can get that is wrong with you in a survival situation causes the same symptoms. Dehydration, getting too hot, getting too cold, sleep deprivation, infection, fatigue, and poisoning, all sorts of things will fuck with your head, give you headaches, make you confused, sometimes even unbalanced. They will screw with your guts, yeah. They will screw with your temperature. You will sweat, even, yeah, you'll sweat. You'll have fevers, or the symptoms of fevers, like being hot at blah, blah, blah. You can be hot because of a fever, but you can be hot just because you're too hot and you're suffering from heat stroke. So there's a group of symptoms, mostly head and shaking and things like that are all encompassed by all of the different conditions. And so you have to be super analytical about the context what you're in, that you are in, which is difficult when your head is all screwy. And I shall tell you the secret of making sure that you're not in that case situation. You have to be analytical about where you are in, and so you can thin down what the problem is. Let's take the Arctic. There is a very good chance that the problem you have in the Arctic is you are too bloody cold. However, you can dehydrate in the Arctic because the air is dry, because -20 air temperature can't support water. So when you breathe in, you're breathing in desiccated air and you have to hydrate it, which costs you water as you exhale the water at 100% humidity. So you could be dehydrating. So think about how much water have you had? Am I dehydrating, or am I cold, or am I a combination of the two? What you need to think about your past. You need to think about where you are. Also, you can get heat stroke in the Arctic by not wearing the right clothes whilst you're doing certain things. If you are trying to build a log cabin, then you're going to sweat because it's hard work, because you can't dissipate that heat in a really thermal gear that you're wearing. This is problematic So you can start suffering from heat conditions. Also, if you're sweating, you start dehydrating. As am I, getting thirsty. So you have to be, even in the Arctic, where you could be cold, hot, or simply dehydrated, and the heat causes the dehydration, and the cold, you see. Thing is, if you're going to sweat in your clothing and it's not super breathable, then when you stop, you'll end up getting cold because the heat, the thermal insulation is now rubbish, and you get you just dissipate the heats super fast. On the Arctic the other day, I saw in one of the courses I was doing, I did a outdoor risk course for expeditions and the like. I didn't even think about this. If you get fuel on your hands out there in the world, then it's going to evaporate. And if it's evaporating on your hands, they'll cool down, just like sweat cools you down, or just like putting water on you cools you down. So fuel evaporating on your hands because you've got it there for whatever reason, then you're going to cool down. There's a top tip that you don't need to do that. And so the moral of the story is that there are the symptoms of certain conditions, many conditions that are the same. And even if it seems so obvious that it's something, and some other thing almost proves it to you, like the drugs that didn't do anything but proved to me that the seizure was halted, then it's context that you need to analyze. You need the knowledge of what it could be, and you need the context of where you are. I didn't know enough about the nervous system to know this nerve is associated with the two fingers that I've got a problem with. So this part of my hand I've got a problem with. I didn't know that. And my thought process of having a shoulder injury, injury, which should be a problem from the gym. It didn't even occur to me that that could be the thing, because I was so focused on the neurological problems. And it's that focus that's dangerous. Really, really need to broaden in knowledge and broaden the focus, the anti-focus, if you like, and try and understand where you are contextually. So got to make a better diagnosis so that you can solve the problem. Now, the big secret, if you like, is to not get into all of these situations. Now, my arm couldn't do a lot about that. My epilepsy, not something I can deal with. However, in this is a survival situation, we're talking about homeostasis. We're talking about the body being in one direction and it wants to be back where it was in terms of temperature and all of that, and hydration. So we need to ensure that we don't get too hot. We need to ensure that we don't get too cold, and we need to ensure that we don't get too dry. So that we need to have forethought and knowledge. We need to knowledge that I've imparted upon you as to the number of things that you can have wrong just in the Arctic, even though you might have thought, oh, cold is the only one. But it's that knowledge of that awareness about the problems that your environment and your actions can cause that will ensure that you can be combating them early, like ensuring that you're drinking before you're thirsty, ensuring that you're wearing the correct clothing before you're belting with sweat, ensuring that you're checking that something could be infected, etc., etc. Acting early is important, and acting sensibly within an understanding of the body and the environment, the actions you're taking. That was the chapter of Easter, and those are the lessons learned, and I hope that was useful. If so, bang a comment in. Let's have a further discussion about it. If you want other things to talk about, stick those in the comments as well. Feel free to like. If you've got this far, you probably liked it. Go on, give us a like, and yeah, subscribe. Then you can see some more. I do one every day. Sometimes they're vlogging, and some of their informational. Some of them are interviews. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a good evening or day or whatever it is in your time zone.